Welcome to my first knitting lesson. All you need to begin knitting is a pair of knitting needles and your favorite yarn. In this case, I will be using a worsted weight yarn and size 7 knitting needles. I'm going to be teaching you to do the long tail cast on. There are many different methods of casting on, but my favorite is the long tail, and unless the pattern specifically suggests a certain cast on, it's the one I always go to. You'll start by pulling out a tail, making a slip knot, and place that on your needle, and that will count as your first stitch. Your working yarn will be the yarn that is coming from the ball, and it'll be the yarn on top, and your tail will be the yarn on bottom. You'll place your finger and your thumb like a slingshot, and you'll cast on your first stitch by going underneath that first yarn by your thumb and grab that yarn, the first yarn on your finger. Pull that through, tighten it up a little, and you have cast on your second stitch. Let me show you that in slow motion. You will repeat this across until you have cast on the number of stitches you need for your project. I'm going to cast on 20 stitches just to show you the knit stitch, just to knit a little swatch. That's 14 stitches, but that will be enough. You're going to turn your work over, and I'm going to teach you how to do a knit stitch. You'll ignore the tail part of your yarn and only work with your working yarn that's coming out of your ball. Or skein, or hank, of course. To do the knit stitch, you will place your second needle up through the front of your first stitch, wrap your yarn around and pull it through, and then slide it off of your needle. One more. Now, as you can see, I'm a thrower, which means that I knit using what is commonly known as the English method, where my yarn is held in my right hand and I throw it over my needle. There is another method called continental, but I'm not the best one to teach you that because I'm not comfortable doing that method. You can search the knitting videos and find many tutorials teaching you how to do that method. In through the front of the stitch, wrap it around your needle, pull it through, and slide it off the needle. In through the front, wrap around, slide it through, and off the needle. And that is how you do the knit stitch. When you get to the end of your row, you're going to turn it and do the same thing. In through your first stitch, wrap the yarn around your needle, pull it through, and push it off the needle. And that is how you do the knit stitch. Now I'm going to teach you how to do the purl stitch. For the purl stitch, you'll bring your yarn in front of your second needle and place your needle through that first stitch and wrap your yarn around, push it through the back, and slide it off the needle. Slow motion. Your yarn is always going to be in front for your purl stitch. Purl stitches are actually the opposite of a knit stitch. So what you're basically doing is a backwards knit stitch. You push it through, wrap it around, push it back through, and slide it off the needle. And that is how you do the purl stitch.